Hi guys, welcome to Verbling. My name is Joe, and today we're going to be watching a TED Talk video by Xiao Lin, and it's called Learn to Read Chinese with Ease. So it's a short 6-minute video. I'm guessing some of you may have already watched it, which is okay, but we're going to be watching that together, so that'll help you guys practice your listening skills. And then afterwards, we're going to practice our speaking skills by having a discussion about the video, learning languages, methods for learning languages, and just we're going to comment on what you guys thought about the video. So I think we have a full class today. Ciao, Pen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Where are you from today?
I'm from China, so I think this topic is very fit for me and us.
Good, yeah. I think you'll be able to give us some insight on the language and everything, since it's about Chinese.
Yes.
So I think that'll be really interesting to hear you share your opinion. So I think we should have more people joining us. There were 9 reservations, so that means that the class was fully booked.
Yes.
So I'm guessing people are just waiting to join. So we'll get started shortly. Yeah. I'm wondering where, because it said that because it tells me how many reservations there are, and it said that it was fully booked. But so far you're the only one that's joined, so maybe people are having issues. So let's see. Okay. Okay, yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's posted anything about having issues, and I just asked. Well, that's unfortunate, because if there were reservations made, then I don't think anybody else can join. Okay, it sounds like somebody else is joining. Okay, here we go. So, Alison, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Alright. And then Adbil, are you there?
Yeah, me here.
Okay, so I'm not sure. It's already been 6 minutes, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm guessing the rest of the people that reserved a spot will join soon, I'm hoping. But if not, that's okay. And for those of you guys who couldn't get a spot in the class, but you'd still like to participate, you will be able to, because I'm going to post the link to the video. I already did, but I'll post it again. And we're going to watch it together, us 4, in the Hangout. And then afterwards, we're all going to talk about it, and then talk about learning languages in general. So this is just kind of a class on, it's one just kind of to give you guys a little bit of inspiration to maybe check out Chinese or even another language, and to see that it can be easier than you think. Because I watched this video, I watched a little bit of this video, and already just from the 3 minutes it made me realize, oh, Chinese seems a lot easier than I thought. And we're lucky today because Chao, he is actually from China, so hopefully he'll be able to share some of his opinions on his native language, and just some of the ways that he learned it, maybe in grade school. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we get started, Adbil and Alison, can you tell us where you guys are from?
Sure,
Okay.
I'm from Mexico.
Mexico, Adbil, and then Alison?
Yeah, I'm from Brazil.
Brazil. Okay, so Adbil's from Mexico, Alison is from Brazil, Chow's from China, and I'm from the United States, from Arizona. So I'm going to open up the YouTube app because I believe this video is on YouTube. And then we're going to watch it in the Google Hangout. And for the rest of you, since you guys are on the outside, I'm going to post the link to the video so you guys can watch it on the outside. And then after the 6 minutes, because I think it's about 6 minutes long, we'll all talk about it. And you guys can comment with your opinions in the Verbling chat. And then I can read them out loud and share them. Okay, so let me just find the video. And then we'll watch it. Okay, so here it is. So one thing I want to say to you guys, while we're watching this video, try to mute your microphone. So you can do that by going up to the top and hitting the mute button. So that way, if you're breathing, your microphone doesn't pick it up during the video. All right, here we go. Okay. So, I saw that, I think Wallace, right? Just joined us. Um, let's see. Sorry, my window. There we go. Okay. So that was the video. And Beal, there you are. Okay. Um, Dil Omar. That's just the rules. I'm not sure. Um, you might have to put on your account that you're 18 so that it'll let you join. Because that's just the rules of Google Hangouts. Like it's a safety thing, I think, in the United States. So what you need to do is just change your birthday on your Google Plus account, and that should allow you to join after making a reservation. I'm sorry about that. That's the only thing that you can really do. But for Wallace, did you see the video that we were watching?
Actually, I didn't see nothing. Just
Okay.
send the link, please.
Yeah, that's probably because you joined late. So here's the link
Exactly.
to the.
Actually, I was talking, to a friend on Skype, and it just joined right now.
Okay, that's okay. There's the video.
Do you
You can
remember me?
just. Yeah, you can just watch the video and then mute your mic while we're talking. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so for Adbil, Alison, Chow, and everybody else that watched the video, what did you guys think of it? Or what did you guys think?
Oh, I think it's very interesting. I mean, I've always been fascinated about the Chinese language because I think it's at the same time it is I think it's almost impossible to learn. It is also very beautiful and historical, and it seems to have a logic with the characters in Chinese. Like she said, a person, and when we have two persons, it's a crowd, and I mean, it is interesting, like logic.
Yeah, it does seem really logical because because I never thought about it, I just thought they were just lines. I didn't know if there was any connection behind it, or somebody just said, hey, this is going to be the character for a person or a man. I had no idea because I've never studied Chinese before, so I thought this video was really interesting because it's cool because you can see the logic behind it. That's what she points out. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Adbil, what did you think of it? Your microphone may be muted because you just rejoined. So just a reminder, it's up there at the top, a little button.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm looking out. I was just looking in again the video because I missed the whole part.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so Chow, what did you think of it? Since Chinese is your native language, did you learn it that way, or did you learn it a different way? What did you think?
Yes, I think this video is a very interesting way to teach Chinese, to deliver the background, the logic behind the Chinese character. And I think it is a good way to let the foreigner to have the interest into the Chinese character, because when the non-Chinese speakers first see the Chinese, they would say, it is impossible. What the hell is the Chinese character? And
Yeah.
and I want to say, almost every single Chinese character have their behind meaning. Chinese people just constructed by meaningful, like the people, like as our videos show, the person and the tree or something like that. So as for me, when I was a child, I don't remember the method like this. Just is my the method is not so interesting as we learned in the video. We just learn I don't know, the single word and not so connected with maybe some about it, but not so use graph or uh, some connection. So I think it is good.
So wait, so when you learn the Chinese characters, how does it work? A graph?
Yes, we have under the picture, the graphic presentation.
Like okay, like a presentation with like images or
Yeah, the
pictures or
image.
graphics.
When
Okay.
when I was a baby, I would say, the child, and
Uh,
our parents would bought some, card with the image on it, and but just but just let you to learn this language, not so connected with the particular object.
uh-huh.
But right now, I think our Chinese education is growing a lot, it improved a lot. So I can say it is a tendency to make the language learning easier and vivid, I would say. So,
Okay, that's
and could I say one thing?
yeah.
And actually, do you know two different type of the Chinese language? One is the traditional Chinese, the other is the simple Chinese. And the traditional Chinese is more complicated, and the simple Chinese is easy for people to write and read. But if you want to learn the in-depth Chinese language, I think it's better to learn the traditional Chinese because uh, it relates to the culture and some specific objects. Yes, that's all.
Ah, okay. And um, so I'm guessing, do you know both of them, or do you just know traditional Chinese?
I Uh, I'm learning the simple Chinese in the
Okay.
Hong Kong or uh, something like some region, the mainland of China learning the simple uh, Chinese, but the other area learn the traditional. So, but I can read almost most of the traditional Chinese because they are just connected with each other, just simplified.
Uh-huh.
So, but for the foreigner or the Chinese learner, maybe it is totally different, and it's hard to connect the simple version and the traditional version.
Simple literature. Okay, yeah, I think I've heard of that before because I have a friend who's learning Chinese and he was telling me about I remember him mentioning traditional and simple Chinese and I think he was learning simple as well. So in the video, I don't know if you guys remember this part, but she said that you only really need to know 1,000 characters to get by. What do you think about that, Chao? Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree with that, and because uh, the if you learn the, the as we say the big word, the complete word is often combined with the simple word. Unlike the English, maybe the word uh, is just totally unrelated with another word, but in Chinese they are just connected with each other. So uh, just like as we learned in the video, the crowd was just two-person, and the uh, forest, I'm sorry, the two tree and become a
Uh-huh.
yes, something like that. So if you know the basic, you can really construct a more difficult word.
Okay,
But
okay.
it is
Uh,
always hard for a learner to I don't know how to say to get the first step. So
yeah, to get it's always hard to maybe start out with learning Chinese, or maybe it's hard to get your foot in the door because
yes,
it looks intimidating
totally
from
yes,
afar.
yes, it's totally different system compared with the English.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But I
agree
would say
because yeah.
yes. So I'm sorry.
No, sorry. After you.
But I would say the grammar is similar. Now you can find the similar grammar structure between the English and Chinese. That is one thing I think is a good
Ye-
news.
Good news. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's kind of similar. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Um, let's see. So we watched that video, and so um, Alison and Advil, what are you, and Wallace, I think he's still watching the video. I'm not sure. Um, Adbil and Alison, what do you guys think about learning Chinese now? I mean, what did you guys think beforehand, and what do you think about it now?
Well, I spent 1 week trying to learn a little of Chinese, but after that week I gave up because I realized that it was not for me. Well, I know earlier about the grammar of the Chinese, and it seems to be very simplified, not to be so difficult as, for example, German that has 4 cases, right? For example, I know that I am, we say 我是, and 是, which is the verb, is all the same for all the persons. 你是, 我们是, they don't
Yes,
change.
yes,
They're all the
yes,
same, right? Ciao.
yes, yes.
So
Okay.
this is very simplified. In English, there are differences. We say I am, he is, you are. There are 3 differences. In German, there are very many, much more, as in Portuguese. Right?
Yes.
So it is very easy to learn the grammar of Chinese. And there is also this logical things about the way the character is. For example, the the word for horse looks very similar as a hearse if you see a character. The
Okay.
person looks like someone walking, right? So
Yeah.
if you make this connection between the character and the meaning, it is much easier to learn the Chinese.
Okay. So you're kind of saying that you tried it for a week and it was kind of difficult, but now that you've seen this video and you realize, oh, the characters are pretty similar, that you think you could do it?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I could get back to Chinese again, but I'm more into other languages.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. Yeah, I mean, we all have different desires to learn different languages.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, and Adbil, what did you think? What did you think about Chinese before you watched this video, and now what do you think about Chinese, learning Chinese?
Well, actually, I haven't finished to watch the video, but
Okay.
so far, looks pretty interesting. It looks to me like people, like when you're in the airport.
Sorry, Adbil, we can't hear you. It sounds like your microphone is either being blocked or it's far away.
I'm sorry.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Uh, I was saying that I haven't finished to see the video, but it looks pretty interesting, and it looks to me uh, all the symbols are like when you are in the airport and you see the symbols when you, for example, to see that way is the bathroom, that way is the hallway, that way is the exit. It,
Uh-huh.
it looks pretty much like that to me. I'm sorry, I'm still ignorant on this topic, but it looks pretty interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, you think that a lot of the characters look similar. I think. Yeah. No. I don't. I think that a lot of people think that. I mean, um, like for me, I didn't even know they spoke Portuguese in Brazil until until high school, until I was like 15 or 16 or 17. Um, and so I mean, it's hard because when you don't know about something, you assume a lot of things. So, so I think after you finish watching this video, you'll see that the characters may look the same from far away, but when you really take a look at it, the characters are really different, and then you can start to see, oh, okay, there's man walking, blah blah blah. Like, I don't know, however the bathroom, like, man can go here to use the bathroom or something like that. However the sign reads. Yeah, interesting. Okay, Wallace, you said that you watched the video.
Exactly.
How has this video changed your view on learning Chinese? What do you think? What's your
So
opinion?
actually, I've never tried to learn Chinese. Even I have a lot of friends on Skype, who can speak Chinese, and I just believe that, it can, help out, because I think that before we just try to learn a new language, we just should try to learn the pronunciation and the phrase before we just learn, letters and
Yeah.
something like that. And as I learned English when I was beginner, and I just studied just listening before I just tried to speak.
Yeah.
And in this way, this girl just taught on the video, and she just showed like to learn Chinese by characters or pictures. And let's suppose that you're gonna travel to China, and when you just arrive in the airport, and you're just gonna see the character and you're gonna understand. But when you just try to communicate, you're not able to communicate to anyone, and that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when I read the description of the video, it was talking about how you can learn to read the characters really well, and then you can start reading books, or just even when you're traveling, say you go to China, then you can read the signs and everything very easily. But yeah, I think you're right. This method is good for learning vocabulary,
Exactly.
and like it's good for reading and maybe
Yeah.
writing, but it's not good for speaking or listening, because when you see it, you're not going to know how it's pronounced, how it's.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Um, okay, so here I'll go last. I think that everybody else went. Um, so for me, I've never studied Chinese. Um, I've looked at Japanese a little bit. Um, But now that I've seen this video of Chinese, I think that it's really cool because, kind of Allison, kind of what you were saying, it's logical. And if you learn the basics, then you can see how they apply to other words. Like, I thought it was funny how they had the character for woman, and then when you put two women together, it meant argument, which I thought was really funny. It's ironic, but it's
It
funny.
is.
So it's cool that you can learn one thing and then learn another. And it kind of applies to English and other languages as well. Like I explained this once in another class. For example, when you're trying to say, when you're trying to make something an adjective, like for example, if you want to say that my laptop, for example, is from Argentina, instead of saying from Argentina, you can say Argentinian. Argentinian. So you can add the IAN to a lot of country names, and then that turns it into an adjective. I'm trying to think of other examples. Mexican. Kind of the same, the AN at the end. Chilean. So I mean, it depends a little bit on how the country ends. Like if it ends in a vowel or a consonant or whatever. But it's cool because you can add these little parts on, and then you can create a new word. So it's kind of similar to the way that she was explaining the Chinese characters, because you have one character, and then depending on how you change it, what you add to it changes the meaning. Brazilian, yeah, thank you. So it's interesting to see those types of connections. Okay, so now that we've watched the video, we have 25 minutes left. So what I want to do with the rest of this time is just have a conversation about language learning in general. Like, what are some ways that you guys, some methods that you guys use to maybe learn vocabulary, practice listening, writing, etc. So that you can share it with the class and with everybody else that's watching, so that maybe they can say, oh, okay, there's a method that Ali Sun uses. I never even thought about that. That's a great way. So what are some ways or methods that you guys learn vocabulary, maybe practice reading, or just what are, I guess the question I want to ask is, what are the ways or methods that you guys have used to learn English or another language that have been most helpful in helping you become more proficient or more fluent?
Can I be first?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, when I just realized that I wanted to learn English, and I just discovered a website called, can I say this website over here?
If I prefer you not to.
Okay.
Just say.
Okay. Okay. I just entered to this website and made an account in this website, and I just started, to read some words and phrases in English in this
Uh-huh.
website, and then this website I was able, to communicate in English and reading and writing. I mean, like, there is a chat in this website and a place where you just can talk English. And after that, I just made some friends and I just made an account on Skype and moved to there. And actually, in the next year, I wasn't, working, and
Uh-huh.
I just spent, the whole day just trying to learn that. And my friend, they just helped me out a lot with the vocabulary. And actually, and then this friend, they just invited me to come to their conference, and I just met some new people and added them to my contacts on Skype, my contact list.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember exactly, but that's all. I mean, like, when I just realized I was speaking.
Wow. So basically, what you did was you tried to learn a few words and phrases, and then afterwards you started reading and writing first, and then after you had some practice, you started speaking with native speakers, I'm assuming, right?
Exactly. Actually, I just talked to native speakers. I've never talked to anyone from abroad,
Wow.
just native speakers, even just Americans, I mean.
Just Americans.
Exactly. You
Wow,
know,
and
I'm
and
not
that
so excited to British English.
wow, okay.
So
That's
sorry.
really no, that's fine. That's really cool though that it seems like it's working really well, right? You would agree that it's do you still practice all the time?
Exactly. Actually, right now, I just have 3 friends, and we just talk all the time on Skype. I mean, like, on my break at work, and when I just have, some time, and I just spend my time with them. And, just talking about everything, I mean, like, happening in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Just normal day things. I mean,
Exactly. This,
it's it's like you would do in your native language, but you're doing it in the language you're learning, which is
yeah,
English.
that's it.
That's really cool. That's a great method. Thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Chow, I think you wanted to go next because you said your computer is going to die.
Yes, I don't know when my computer would die, so I just tell one method about myself. Just be simple. And I think one method is to learn the English course, I mean the English class. After you get some level of it, you can learn the English course related to your major. And you can also have your language a subscript, yes. And because it is not boring because it is related to your major or your passion, and you can learn the vocabulary, and you can also learn the uh, professional world, and you can also join a class, and you can write something, improve your because you need to find the resource about your topic or something. So you can write a paper, and you can do some communication with your peer group and something like that. So I think it is a good way to learn English. But you have, as long as you have some basic level of English. So it is my method. I don't know if it could be applied for anyone, but I think it is good for me at least.
Yeah, that's cool. So you find a topic that you're interested in, and then you kind of create a project,
Uh,
or like you
I mean,
research it?
yeah, you can. There are many open class in the internet. I mean, you can.
Oh,
Yes,
like a
that is
class. Okay.
yes. So you can find your interested class and not only improve your English, but also improve your major, your career, or something like that.
Okay. So like a class, like maybe that's related to your career or major, but find it in English. So like
Yes,
for
and you
example,
can have your language subscript, and as long
oh,
as you yeah, as long you can watch it without your own language subscript, and you can only watch the English subscript, and after
oh,
some level you can just watch the video and you can comprehend it, and your English level is improved.
yeah, okay. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Like I know there's just information out there on the internet where like classes, like maybe there's a computer science class offered on the internet, and maybe it's like a video on YouTube or something. And you watch it in English and English subtitles, so that way if you don't understand the audio, you can look at it. Okay, that makes perfect sense. That's a great way. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, Francisco, you just joined us. The reason that we muted you is because your microphone is picking up a lot of background noise. I'm not sure what it is, um, but if you'd like to, you could share a method. You can unmute yourself by going up here, and you'll see a button that has a microphone with a slash through it. And if you click on that, there we go. It sounds like there's music or a TV playing. Francisco? It sounds like there's a TV playing or music. Alright, I'm sorry, Francisco. I'm gonna have to mute you until you can figure out that background noise, because otherwise we won't be able to hear you. But you can right here on the Verblink chat. Okay, would anybody like to go next? Any other methods?
Okay, I can say.
Okay.
Well, I have three methods that I use to use when I'm learning another language.
Okay.
And one of them is translating everything that I can when I'm talking to someone in my mind. For example, if I'm having a conversation with my mother in Portuguese, which is my mother tongue, I try to translate it in my mind. I know it can be a little crazy, but this is what I do. I don't know if it would apply to any of you guys. And another thing I try to do is recording my own voice, and then I try to compare with like some of my friends or maybe with a native speaker because I have a blog, so I try to post podcasts talking about the way I'm learning languages, and then I record myself, I put a transcript, and then I try to check out if it's okay, what needs to be improved, and I also ask suggestions for other friends that are learning the language or maybe to a native speaker. And there's
Oh,
also
wow.
another thing that is speaking to myself. When I'm alone at my house, I like to talk to myself to improve the pronunciation and vocabulary, and also speaking. I like to do these three things.
Wow, okay. That's really cool. So the first method you said was
Translating.
translating. So that can work. Wallace said that it works for him. So, try it. It depends, because I think of that. I've done that too, where I'll think, of something, like I'm having a conversation and I think, what would this sound like in Spanish, or what would this sound like in
Mhm.
Portuguese? Stuff like that. So you could try that. That's a good method. It works for some people and it doesn't work for others. You just have to test it out. The second thing, the blog. Will you post that so I can check that out? I also have a blog, and
I saw your blog.
oh, you did?
Portuguese, right?
Yeah, yeah. I was writing in Portuguese, and then I wrote a few in English, but I'm also gonna write some in Spanish once I go to Argentina. But yeah, I think a blog is a great way to practice a language, because if you write, like for example, I was writing mine in Portuguese and I shared it with people on Verbling, and I got comments and feedback and help from people. And what you can do is try and find a Portuguese community to share it with, like kind of start your own little community.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
so I think, yeah, I think that's a great way, because especially if you're learning English, there's so many people that speak English and read English. So if you can put your blog in English, especially since you guys are all learning English and so many people are learning English as well or already speak English, then your audience is going to be a lot larger than somebody else who maybe blogs in Portuguese or Chinese or, well, Chinese is bigger than English, um, but like another language like maybe German. So yeah, I would definitely do the blog if you guys haven't started a blog. Alison uses Blogspot, which is free. I use WordPress, which is free as well. So I'm going to check out your blog, Alison, and maybe I'll leave you a few comments or send you a message on Facebook. But that's really cool. And then the third method, what was the third method? Talking to yourself. I know that sounds really funny, but I do that too. I mean, like when I'm at home, I just try and talk to myself in Spanish or Portuguese, whichever I'd like to practice that day. But it's a great way. I mean, even though you can't practice with a native speaker, it's just, at least you're speaking the language.
And sometimes I even have an argument with myself.
I mean, like,
You have an argument with you. That's funny. Were you going to say something, Wallace?
yeah. So actually, I do that. I mean, like, when I just go to the church, and the pastor just talk to the church, and they just try to translate to English at the same time, And actually,
You're
I used to
interpreter.
talk to to myself and sing songs. Actually, I've been learning 120 songs in English. I know the lyrics, on the top of my
What?
head.
Like the lyrics and all?
Yeah,
That's
You know,
impressive.
there was something that I used to do, and I realized that it was not working. Is that when I was trying to learn English, I take a list of words, a vocabulary, and I try to memorize that words. But
I don't
after
know.
I realized that it was not necessary, and it was not working at all because I got the list with 100 words, and some of them I would never use in my everyday conversations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it was so boring to take a list of words to try to remember. I mean, it's much easier when we are, for example, reading a novel, a comic book. There is so much that interests us,
yeah. I mean, like, which one is the best? To know 100 phrases or 2,000 words? Just individual words.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, it's probably better. Well, because it's hard, because you want to make sure the words are going to be relevant. For example, today I was speaking to a friend that I met on Verbling, and we were practicing Spanish. And I was talking to him in Spanish, and sometimes there are words that I don't know, and so one thing I try and do is either look them up and then try and remember them, or I'll explain it to him in Spanish, and then he'll try and figure out which word I'm talking about. So that's one thing you can do if you don't like to translate, because there are people who say translating is good and people who say translating is bad. It just depends on which side of the fence you fall on, because it can be bad and it can be good. Because I mean, one of the arguments is that when you learn your first language, you're not translating. So
Yeah.
why should you translate when you're learning a second language? But for example, if I'm at my house and I'm just hanging out and I'm talking to myself in Portuguese and I'm trying to remember how to say door in Portuguese, there's nobody. I can't just go down the street and ask my neighbor because my neighbor's not from Brazil. I can't just call up a friend and because I don't have any. Well, I have a few Brazilian friends, but um, that would be a situation where I think it would be okay to look up the word to translate it to say, okay, what is door in Portuguese? And then I look it up and figure it out. Because it's hard to learn a language, to learn a second language the same way you learn the first language, unless you're put in the same situation. Um, so I think Wallace, one thing you were saying was that you Skype or you just talk with native speakers. That's a great way. Because then you can explain it and say like, hey, what is the name of that thing that you put your laptop in? And then they can say,
Exactly.
oh, that's a laptop case. And then you're not even translating at all. So you can do it then. And so I think it's a good method to not translate when you can, but when you
Yep.
can't, to translate.
Yeah. For
Actually,
example, I've been
okay, go
teaching
ahead.
English for adults, and what I've come across in my classes was that sometimes I was faced with a situation when I had to translate that sentence. For example, the expression "so to speak."
So to speak. Yeah,
So to speak. There is no way in those words that I can translate this. I mean, that I can explain this in Portuguese, in English, to pass the same message. I mean, I have to translate this so that my students can understand what I am saying. So
yeah.
if I try to spend too much of my time trying to explain this thing in English, I will lose much time that I could to teach other things. So translating is not a bad thing after all.
Yeah, exactly. It can be, I think, like, for example, if I'm trying to teach you the word for car, I don't think I need to translate it because I can show you a picture or
Exactly.
this actual car. I mean, like a miniature car. So I think it's kind of the same thing. I know Chow left, but with Chinese, when you're learning the vocabulary, um, if you can have a picture and somebody draws a man, I mean, it's hard because if you I'm trying to think with Chinese. I don't know. I've never learned Chinese, so I'm not 100% sure um, how you could do that because you could show a picture of a man and then have the character and then have like an equal sign. So I think you could do it. Um, it just depends. Like you said, Alison and you, Wallace, it just depends on the situation. Um, how about Adbil? Are there any methods you like to share with us?
Yeah.
Mm,
What works for me it's to watch movies or TV series in English and with the subtitles in English as well. That was for me, and also to speak with native English and to chat with native English. And if there is something that I don't understand, I always use Google. You know,
Yeah.
like for example, I always type like I,
Sorry, Adbil, I think you got muted or your microphone cut
Breaking
out.
up.
yeah. Okay. Uh, I was saying if I don't understand any words or any idioms, I always use Google. For example, I used to use the define function in Google,
Uh huh.
and
Oh yeah.
it helps me a lot. Also, yeah, the internet it could be a very useful tool.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great way. Like whenever I don't know a word, I use Google's function where you just type in define. Like,
I mean, like, for example, when you just don't understand any word, and you know, a friend just says, let's suppose that I'm just talking to a native speaker right now, and then he just say, some expressions in English, then I even know. And if I didn't understand, I'm gonna just, write it down in Google and what does mean, for example, to break the news, to hate to break the news. Then I'm gonna define. you know, the meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's another thing. If you can learn the phrases, or not the phrases, but the structure of how to form questions like that, then you can type it in on Google, like the Google for United States. I'm not sure how it works, because I know like because my Google is automatically put to the United States because that's where I'm from. Because I know like for Argentina it looks like this www.google.com.ar. So I'm guessing if you take off the AR and the period, then it's just for the United States. But I'm not sure because I've never tried it from another country. But yeah, that's a perfect way to do it, Wallace. You could do it. Think of it. What I try and do when I'm trying to research something in or look up something in Spanish or Portuguese, I try and think, okay, how would a Brazilian or how would an Argentinian or Spanish speaker put this into Google? Um, so then for English, you would say like, what does, and then type in the phrase mean. So
Yep.
that's the way you would put it. So if you can learn those things, or you can just remember them, then you can type that in, and it's almost like you're a native speaker. And Google will think that you're a native speaker, so you come up with better results.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I think that's a great way to do that. I've tried that, and it works really well. Um, One other method that I wanted to say, kind of what Alison, kind of what you were saying, how you record your voice, and you talk to yourself. One thing that I've done whenever, like for example, if I want to practice my Spanish and I don't have anybody to practice with, or I just want to practice reading, a great way to improve your fluency, and your fluency is like how you talk. Like if I'm talking like this, where I know a few words, but then I have to stop for a little to remember the next word and the next word, as opposed to if I'm just talking like this where it's normal, where it flows a lot better. One good way or a good method to improve that type of fluency, the fluency, is by reading out loud. And I know it sounds silly, but if you find articles, like if you use, like for example, if you guys want to practice with newspaper publications from the United States, you could try the New York Times. Go to that website, find an article, and read it out loud to yourself, and just try and imitate a native speaker, or even recording your voice to practice and say like, oh, my R's do not sound good. Then you can really improve your fluency that way. So I've done that a few times with Spanish. But I mean, it all depends on what your weaknesses are. Because if one of your weaknesses is listening, then one thing I would recommend is practicing with multiple people. So Wallace, you said you practice with the same 3 people. I think that's a really good way, because when you practice with the same people, you start to pick up their expressions, maybe their humor, their jokes, and the way they talk and enunciate things. So that's really good for developing your accent. But if you're trying to practice your listening skills, then one method that will help you is by practicing with multiple people, because then your ears constantly have to adjust. So it depends on what your goal is. So once you can figure out your goal, then you can figure out the best method.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
right.
that's
Especially, especially about what you said, Joe, about listen to multiple people, because not everyone speaks the same. And we also have to deal with people who doesn't have English as a native language, and they have the accent, like I have my Portuguese accent, someone
Yeah,
who speaks Spanish has their Spanish accent, so we have to get used to it too. I mean,
yep.
speaking to native speakers are very good, it's great, but I think we have to get used to other accents too. It's important.
yeah, I think you're absolutely right, because, like for example, the video we just watched, I think she said she was from Taiwan, so her accent is going to be different than a native speaker, but she still speaks English fluently, and you have to be prepared for those situations if you want to speak English fluently. So one thing that helped me a lot with Spanish, um, was before I started teaching English, before we offered English classes on Verbling, it was just the one-on-one practice, which don't. I think it's called Friends, or it's called Dash. I can't remember if. I think it's called Dash. Um, so if you look at that, you can say like, oh, I want to connect with this person and practice. Um, so I used to do that as an administrator slash tutor. I did that for like 5 months, and they wanted me to speak to each user or each person on Verbling for 10 minutes. So my ears were constantly having to adjust to a Spanish accent versus a Mexican accent versus an Argentinian accent versus Panamanian, etc. So it just kept having to change, and because of that, I don't have a lot of difficulty when I'm speaking to different people in Spanish. Now, sometimes I have to, adjust my ears to understand their accent because everybody speaks differently. Um, but like the accent in general, like the way the Chileans drop the S, or when the Argentinians use the sh or the j. So like things like that. So I think you're right. You have to practice with different types of accents. So like I know Wallace, you said you don't really care for the British accent, but just to practice with them, that would help a lot. So just watching movies. Adbil, kind of you were saying that. So if you could watch American movies and then watch a British movie and then watch an Australian movie, that's really going to help your listening. But it also depends on what your goal is.
I mean, like, I don't have any problem with, different accents, kind of accents, but, I just don't like to talk to British people.
No prejudice.
Yeah, I mean, like, they sound weird.
Okay, I
They
mean,
really sound weird.
you probably sound weird to them. I probably sound weird to them. I mean, for me, when I hear a British person talking, like, if they say, like, we have different pronunciations for just in general. So, like,
Yeah.
I might say, like, hey, I need my mobile phone or my cell phone, and they might say mobile, which is way
Yeah.
different. Just stuff like that, or water versus water. So it just depends. I mean,
Little.
little, yeah, exactly. So we all sound weird to depending on who the person that we're talking to is. So if they're from England and you're from Brazil, then you might sound funny to them.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's interesting to see the differences in all the accents. I mean, even if you don't need to practice, it's just cool to know, like, oh, okay, that's what a British accent sounds like, or oh, that's what a Scottish accent sounds like. So I think it's just good practice in general.
Yeah, it is, I know.
Yeah. All right, well, that brings us to the end of the class. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you have reconsidered the difficulty of Chinese. And I know that I think speaking and listening to Chinese are definitely going to be a lot more difficult than reading and writing, but I think this lady who spoke about Chinese has really showed a way where you can has really kind of cleared up the previous thought that we thought that Chinese was difficult. Because if you look at it from this perspective, then it seems a lot more logical. So it's interesting, and I hope that you guys have understood that point. Yeah, exactly. That it'll take practice, but there are logical aspects to it. So that's the last thing I wanted to say. Thank you guys for coming, and I don't know when I'll be teaching the next class. I'm trying to work on a course right now. I don't know if you guys have seen, but we're offering courses, so I'm going to try and do one on pronunciation.
Okay.
But you guys, I think all of you, I've taught all of you before, so I'm guessing you already have seen my Facebook page, but just a reminder, that's where I'll be posting the news. Like I'll give updates, say, hey, I think I'll be done with my course in a week, etc. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have a great night, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me on the Facebook page, and I'll respond to you as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.
Take
Have
care.
a good night. You too.
Have a
See ya.
good night.
Obrigado,
Take care,
tchau.
guys.
Thanks. See ya.